So, you've convinced your friends to try D&D under the guise of a casual board game night. Now you just need to plan the perfect session to hook them and turn TTRPGs into a lifelong passion. Easy, right? That is actually the key. The best way to trap your friends, hook your friends, and leave them wanting more is to have everything be easy and fun. In a recent season of Dimension 20, Brennan shows us exactly how to make D&D fun and exciting for new players.
Hi.
And I'm going to break down his strategies so you can use them too.
Cool.
Welcome to the table. I'm Kelly, and we're gonna find out if you need to make new friends or if they'll just friggin' play D&D already. I think the only way to hook someone with TTRPGs is to have them experience it for themselves, and I'll tell you why. My first introduction to TTRPGs was Actual Canibal Shia LaBeouf, a 2-page TTRPG based on the song by Cantor. I've linked the subreddit and the song down below if you missed it when it came out. My friend Alec ran the game for a small group of us, and even though it was so many years ago, I still vividly remember the moment I got hooked.
I could not have imagined this visit going any better.
Alec described me entering a building and asked me what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to look for a fire axe. He rolled a dice, and then he described me finding it and picking it up. And that was it. I was hooked. I said some words, and they became real.
Wow!
I still remember the feeling of excitement and freedom as I realized that I could do anything and go anywhere in this game. Truly, the only limit was our imaginations. That is what I love about TTRPGs, and it's almost impossible to describe to someone if they'd never played. The experience of that freedom and excitement is what I try to replicate when I run a game for new players, and it's exactly what Brennan was able to do in Dungeons and Drag Queens.
Honestly, that's great to know.
Now, in Actual Canibal Shia LaBeouf, there are almost no rules, so you really can do whatever you want. In D&D, there are lots of rules. But if you're running a game for a group of first-time players, don't let the rules hamper their creativity. In a flashback scene in the first episode of Dungeons and Drag Queens, Bob the Drag Queen describes her sorcerer as being able to speak with a dead farmer, similar to Speak with Dead.
Oh, hi, how can I help you?
There aren't any mechanics that would allow Bob to do this, unless it was homebrewed, but instead of stopping and telling her that she could only cast the spells on her character sheet, Brennan leaned into it and created a cool moment that let Bob feel like a powerful magic user without having any negative consequences on the mechanics.
The room's swirling, her stuff's falling over, her hair is flying, the coat is just flying in the air, and then she goes, I have the answers you seek.
I'm not saying that you should let your players do whatever they want and completely ignore the rules, because that won't help them understand how the game works. But the focus should be on encouraging their creativity and figuring out how that can work within the rules.
Oh, well, we gotta talk about this.
You can always teach the rules in future sessions, but if someone feels overwhelmed and like they can't do anything, then there might not be any future sessions. So when playing with first-time players, I always try to say yes to whatever they're doing and figure out how that works into the mechanics on my end.
That's a use of the spell that you can absolutely do.
Speaking of getting overwhelmed with mechanics, character creation can be an overwhelming and tedious process for first-time players. I can't say for sure, but most likely the players in Dungeons and Drag Queens were using characters built by Brennan.
She's a little bit jaded.
Now tell us about your D&D character.
Not to say that they didn't have input on the class they would want to play or some types of things they would want to do, but I could almost guarantee Brendan didn't have them wading through the player's handbook, deciding where to place their stats.
You also have an ability called Reckless Attack.
I just want to punch him clean and simple.
Character creation is a really fun part of D&D, but I think it's only fun once you understand how the game works. Using pre-built characters can allow you to dive right into playing, and then you can help your characters learn their character sheet as you play.
She carries a, well, let's look. Let's see, where is it? Where do I go?
Under your attacks, but also on your character sheet.
Why don't you tell me and then I'll tell you?
You can have your players describe a sentence or two about the general vibe of their character, and then you could give them a couple of class options that might fit. If some of your players aren't familiar with fantasy fiction or media and can't think of a character, you can just describe the basic character archetypes for each class.
My character is not Elvish, but she is an Elvish impersonator sometimes.
Don't worry about making them seem too basic. Keep reminding yourself that this is their first introduction and all this is going to feel novel and new. To them, it isn't going to feel cliche to play an elven ranger that just acts like Legolas.
Gertrude is a bit of a loner.
Now, to sink that hook in and make this a lifelong hobby, whatever your players say, make it canon.
To your other side is Lieutenant Alvin, who is a
chipmunk.
Once we say it, it becomes canon. It's in there now.
Anything you say becomes canon.
Oh no!
Again, you can explain later that this isn't always how the game works, but it's an excellent way to introduce your players to the idea that they have a part in telling this story and building the world. As the queens make little jokes throughout the series, Brennan takes those and incorporates them into the world.
Kind of looks like Brooklyn.
Very similar in some ways to Brooklyn.
After a few of these, they fully realize that they have the power to influence the world and that it reacts to the things that they say. It doesn't matter if you end up with a ridiculous world full of cat trees and Mark Ronsons.
There is a Mark at the tavern that I need to kill.
Mark what?
Mark Ronson.
Okay.
Your players will get to experience the thrilling feeling of collaborative storytelling and world building.
Is the dead body of famed music producer Mark Ronson.
Now this next thing might go against your gut instinct. If you've been running TTRPGs for a while, you probably enjoy telling a good story. One that has twists or subverts tropes. A story with triumphant highs and emotional lows. But if you're running a session for first-time players, throw all that away.
Wow, okay.
You might think that goblins attacking a town is too basic and has been done a million times before, and it has. But this will still be exciting and thrilling for your first time players because they've never done it before.
Oh, so he's a pimp.
Everything will be so overwhelming at first that the story needs to be simple as well. If they're trying to figure out a convoluted plot and figure out the difference between an action and a bonus action, it'll become overwhelming.
So I'm gonna roll a d20 and then I'm gonna add a number.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what number is that?
On your character sheet right over here.
Now, of course, because this is a season of Dimension 20, Brennan does weave a wonderful story with triumphant highs and emotional lows, but it starts with a very basic encounter. Can you guess what it is?
I would like to get a drink.
A tavern encounter. Almost everyone has played a campaign that starts in a tavern. It's the starting point, and for good reason.
If you'll put some clothes on, I'd be happy to get you a drink.
It's a very basic location that's easy to understand, and there are lots of different characters you can put into a tavern to interact or give plot hooks. In Dungeons & Drag Queens, the players need to get information from someone at the tavern.
I want to use Mage Hand
Yeah.
to pop his shirt open.
You're gonna do that, and I'm gonna need everybody to roll initiative.
After a brief and simple combat, they grapple the person and make an intimidation check. The check is a success, and the NPC spills a bunch of useful information that tells them exactly where they need to go next.
Not only do I know who killed Mark Ronson, I think you know who killed Mark Ronson.
Wait a minute.
There's no convoluted clues, riddles, or multiple layers of persuasion and intimidation. It's just a simple check, and then the NPC tells them exactly what they need to know.
It's all connected.
See, I knew it was that bitch.
The whole concept of making a skill check is brand new, so having a nice, easy encounter where you demonstrate how checks work by using them in a simple example is a great way to teach the rules. Don't worry about making your DCs too low or things too easy.
And we'll set a low DC. It's just a DC 10. You just need to beat a 10.
For this first session, you're just teaching your players the general concepts of how the mechanics work. So make everything easy and keep the story moving forward by giving them overly explicit and clear clues about where to go next.
But you see illuminated in that lightning the Temple of Wraiths.
As your players connect the dots of your clues, get excited. Even if they're straightforward, it's fun for your players to make those connections. And if you, as the DM, are excited that your players are putting things together, then it's going to make it feel even more fun for them.
Amazing! Wow. Yes, Twilight.
In the show, the queens make a guess about an NPC that they're pursuing early on, and it turns out to be correct. Brennan is genuinely so excited that they figured out his little twist.
Cannot believe you guys guessed that! That's so f***ing cool! Incredible!
Bring that excitement to everything in that session, and with DMing in general. If your players are nervous or aren't sure if they're doing something right, encourage them, get excited, bring the energy to the table, and your players will reflect it back to you.
Am I playing this right?
You're playing it perfectly. This f***ing rules.
Now that you have your friends hooked on the thrill of TTRPGs, leave them wanting more. At the end of the session, after your players have saved the town or finished doing whatever your story was, end on a little cliffhanger.
Welcome to the underworld. And that's all for this episode of Dimension 20.
Compared to many board games, another thing that sets TTRPGs apart is that you play them in campaigns over many sessions. Leaving the story open with a little cliffhanger is exciting and opens the door for more sessions. Maybe not all of your friends will want to carry on, but if some do, you can turn this silly little first session into a larger campaign. One with epic story twists and all the ups and downs you could want. Or if none of them want to carry on, then I'm sorry to say, but you're gonna have to find new friends. But you can burn this bridge knowing that you tried your hardest. Hopefully that's not the case though. And now you need to turn this little one-shot into a full-blown campaign. Well, you can check out this video here for some tips on how to write your first campaign. And if it's not October 18th yet, then check out this video for details on how to enter my 10K giveaway for a chance to win a prize pack from Dungeon Alchemist, Ghostfire Gaming, and Improved Initiative. I appreciate you.